Where's the link on your Twitter?
Joanna,
Okay,
what?
so right
So
now
it's on my
their
Facebook,
limit
so
is
it's,
$250. Then you're in the
like
next
your
tier.
Facebook.
Yeah.
I think it takes you up
Taking
an
it
extra
in here.
$100,000 or
Doesn't like the
$50,000
signal in here.
where you still qualify for the lower tier rates.
Right, so my budget's $350.
I was
qualified at the
filming
250
in
level.
Argentina, and it's
Look into
cobblestone.
it, 'cause I don't know if it's
And
100,000.
coolest
it
thing
was
in the world.
raining,
That is brilliant.
and literally it
Thank
just
you. And I
slipped out of
am
my
a-
hand because it was
Well, my
dewy and
movie's like
wet.
a 90%
And at the
women.
last minute,
And
Yeah.
yes, of course, I just
face
don't
down.
know,
You could just hear
because
it
there's so
crunch.
many families,
Oh,
until we know our star
like
names for the parents, we don't know what
Tana.
the ethnicities are, and that makes it hard. But for the
Joanna,
side,
where is it? Is it on your actual page?
Look
or
at
It's on
the
my,
diversity clause they have.
It's on
It might
my,
give you some wiggle room.
my page, not my personal page.
That would be
Right.
So if you look up, it's the
She's
one,
doing
that the event.
Yeah, the signal in
not
here is just
that
not
one.
great.
Hey,
so I heard you're the woman to talk about film
It's first
festivals.
scripted.
I am the film festival coordinator.
You know, like,
SAG is a
what to
different
send
thing.
to, what to not.
Yeah, I have a company that's film festival strategy services
Oh,
and
perfect.
distribution development and how to navigate the festival circuit what the fuck you want.
Oh, sure.
Good, that's really good.
Yeah.
I teach distribution classes, and
Do
I'm
you?
always trying to
Yeah.
tell people the truth about film festivals.
What's real?
Everyone thinks, oh, you're just gonna get into a film festival and
Nope.
the movie gets sold.
We're gonna get started in just a few minutes. We just
Especially when you're
started
applying to the wrong
live
festivals.
stream, and so everybody's sharing it to their pages. Right
I
now.
know you. Teresa.
I'm just gonna leave it on. You get a boost.
This is taking, yeah, this
I'm
is
trying to
taking
find
forever.
the link, but my phone doesn't want to play in here.
Oh,
Oh,
do you
here
want me
it
to
comes.
type it and you just tell me?
Oh, your shoes.
There she is.
Thank you.
Don't even get me started with your hands. It's too hard.
So just share this.
Yeah.
Okay.
From away.
Watch the live stream here on my page too.
I had turned it off because I was afraid of my name. So
Well, my phone's not working
get it
down
to-
here.
So show me where
My phone's not working down in the movie theater.
mine's not working well either.
Andy.
It's a
not
signal
that.
issue.
Oh, it's
So where do I tell her? She said she doesn't see it.
there we go.
Tell her to go
Are we
to
on?
this page.
There we go.
Okay,
Facebook.com/.
we are live.
Yeah, I started.
Yeah, I'm just okay.
Andy's here.
So the feed's going, right? It should be on.
trying to find it.
It's not. I don't
Andy's
know.
here.
Where is Andy?
You know what I mean?
There it is. For actor page.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's like-
It's on my page. Yeah.
Huh?
Just to extract from my phone to.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Okay, you ready to go?
Because the signal's not great.
Also, hi, hello. I haven't seen you in like a year.
Yeah, we're ready to go. I think they were just sharing it for their Facebook.
Thank you. I think about the time I saw you on the street and my dog like ran across. I was like about to
Do you want to
get
share
out of
the
her,
Chimaera page? Do you have
get out of her collar. It was like all Kawenga.
I'm like, what are you doing? I don't know. I'm just trying to get it to load in so I can share it and then I can concentrate on everything in front of me. It's dead. This is really
Yeah, we can tag on you.
and you're doing so well.
So she's sharing it to her page.
Okay, I'll share it to Chimaera.
I'm like, it always
I need some of her like Tinkerbell's.
Thank you all for your
Very
patience. We're going to get started in just a couple minutes. If you don't know, this is being live streamed, and so this is what's happening. Technology, everybody's sharing it to their pages right now.
There we go.
Thank you for being here. We have all women in the audience, which is amazing. So just a couple minutes and we'll get started. I am Joanna and I will be your moderator today, and you can just look at these lovely women until they introduce themselves.
Where are you? Where is it?
My actual page, so not that
I
one.
couldn't think of what to say either. Yeah.
Just search for me.
Just. Yeah. My page. My actor page isn't coming up. Okay.
They evacuated the West Century City Mall.
What?
Bomb scare.
Oh, good.
Can you imagine
the
trying to
name of that
evacuate
mall? I was
that big one in Century City, like going down Santa Monica Boulevard, the big mall?
Just there this morning.
How do you evacuate that place?
Oh my gosh.
Can everybody see from where you're sitting?
I went to an event.
Okay, feel free to move if you need to during the panel, because we got the whole thing, so.
Take up space, ladies.
Looks like a man with a gun.
Now I'm putting my phone.
That's where I was today.
Mhm.
Oh, and then what happened?
Evacuated Friday afternoon after reports of a man with a gun.
Ugh.
Who knows if it's actually true?
Oh, yeah, I did hear about that on.
But everybody's on high alert, I'm sure, with
Sure.
Christchurch. Yeah.
New Zealand. Yeah.
It's pretty messed up.
Okay.
exactly what you're talking
That's
about.
white. Yep, and I
Because
did.
remember they say go pick your colors.
I didn't
and
know
it's
that.
like,
I just did white for my toe, and I lasered gel because summer's here, so I feel like gel in the toe lasts so much more than just. So it's worth the money just to have it for a month.
Yeah, I guess on your feet it bothers me on my hands.
Oh, the gel does?
Yeah, because when it starts to come off.
Yeah.
that's when it bothers me.
It's gnarly.
It comes up my nails, and I'm just.
Oh, does it?
And they're,
Take the
look at
nail
them
off.
now. They're all like flimsy little. Hi everyone, we're talking about nails.
Talk about
We're having a very good.
Yeah. Right.
gels or
You
no
guys are all
gels?
like right there.
Who's in?
You can hear
Leave a
everything you're
comment.
saying.
Who prefers gel manicures to regular manicures?
We'd really like to know
Not
what you
exactly
think.
the type of panel you thought it'd be.
I'm a little on the fence, you know.
I don't even know what it is.
I personally love gels.
We're being like horribly stereotypical. Well, my nail.
You just have to own it. It's a, you can
I
use
love
that
my
as still
nails.
do your nails done.
Yeah, it's true.
I love it.
That's very true.
Especially as a writer, and if you're always looking at your nails constantly, I really want my nails to look good while I'm writing.
Or as
find
an
that
actor and you go
difficult
to an
type, 'cause
audition.
I'm like, that's why
and they're
like they'll take these off right after.
Yeah?
Because I'm like,
Yep.
I can't do things.
I always
those
go
are-
all the way down.
You can take them off?
Yeah.
Mine were
No
$6
way.
before, and then they just-
No way.
Because I don't
They
like
look great.
Don't they?
Yeah. And they're not awkward?
No, no.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and
I love how the Indian
Yeah, yeah. Those look like they're gonna come
Yeah,
right.
it's pretty great.
Oh, those are dope. Where do these? Like Sephora?
We have all women in the audience.
I know, it's great. Love it.
I don't live in Joshua Tree, but I'm from the desert.
Well, the men could
They're
learn
coming.
some things from us, so they should
so I
not.
shared it. I just.
You
did what?
On mine, that they have plausible
Stopping
things.
at Starbucks on your way today.
Just kidding, I'm just kidding.
Okay, perfect.
They're not posting.
Yeah, I think it shared to your page. I don't.
No, it should have been Chimaera.
Because because you were sharing something else, so I canceled out of that.
Oh,
And then I shared the actual video, and I just said public. So I
then it might have gone.
I think I've been
Okay,
like
so-
for one day, but I haven't spent much time there.
This is you, right? Still?
Which I'd love to. I love the
Okay, so
desert.
let's share this.
That's what you were
That's not what I was sharing?
Yeah, you were sharing the one.
Yay! I have a chair.
Oh, fantastic.
Thank you. Did you want to do intro?
Bill, did you want to say something?
All right, hi, my name is Bill. I am the FirstGlance Film Festival Director. This year is our first year of panels, and one of the things that we are very proud of at FirstGlance is diversity. And I reached out to a friend of mine, America, and she said, I want to do a women in film panel, and I said, great, do one, I'll leave it all up to you. So here's Women in Film panel by, is it Chimaera?
Yeah,
The
the
Chimaera
Chimaera
Project, hosted by Joanna Ke. There you go.
Thank you, Bill. Did everybody get a handout, first of all? Handouts, yes, yay. And for those of you that weren't in here before, if you need to move during the panel because you can't see, feel free. Like, this is all free game. So if you don't know, this is being live streamed right now. So everybody say hi. Hi,
everybody.
I host a weekly Facebook Live called Tea with Key. And this is the Women in Indie Film panel that is presented by the Chimaera Project. It is a nonprofit that advocates for female filmmakers, and we have one of the founders on the panel today, which is very exciting. So what we are going to start with is just our introductions. So we have an amazing group of powerhouse women. I can't believe, like, I'm looking down the line and you guys are just fantastic, and they have so much to share with you. We might do a Q&A at the end, and if we don't get to the Q&A, please take note of all of their social media handles. This is where you can find them if you want to ask somebody a question and you didn't get to today. All right, so like I said, my name is Joanna Ke. I am a professional script reader, writer, actor, and producer, and we're just going to go down the line, and everybody please introduce yourself and just give everybody the little rundown of who you are and what your experience is in the industry.
Okay. My name is Kimberly Browning, and I'm a filmmaker. I also work as a film festival programmer. I'm currently an associate short film programmer at Tribeca Film Festival. And I'm the executive producer of HBO Access, which develops new voices for episodic writers and directors.
Hello, I'm Alexandra Boylan. I'm a writer-producer. I have 2 horror thriller features and 3 faith-based family movies. So a little bit all over the place. No, I specialize in female-driven. That's what I'm passionate about, and I'm really focused on creating female-driven faith-based films for the family audience.
Hi, my name is Heidi Cox. I have a production company called Dweeb Darlings, which is, its mission is, the mission statement is women can be anything. We want to try to promote more female filmmakers and female-driven content. I have a web series called Stalking LeVar, and I just wrapped shooting a short film called Chasing Fletcher Out.
Hello. Hi, I'm Sylvia Ray. I'm a director, filmmaker, multi-hyphenate. I also do some freelance editing and coloring. I own a production company called Victory Creative, and we specialize in highlighting women and women of color and people of color, marginalized groups. And I have 2 shorts right now that are in film festivals. One is called A Period Piece. It's about a girl who puts in a tampon for the first time. And another which is called Lenny, which is about a young girl who gets a call from her mom. Yeah, and there's more to it, but I'll move on.
Hi, I'm Ashley Nichols. I, for many years, was a production manager and line producer for some of the big players, HBO, Disney, Nickelodeon, Comedy Central. And then I went in-house to a company and was line producing and took a sharp left turn, quit my job, and now I create my own content with my producing partner. Our company is called Minerva Pictures, and we are mothers, and we are focused, and our long-term goal is to be a quality of life, family first production company. Currently, I just wrapped 2 shorts, and I'm in pre-production on a feature film.
Hello, Cheryl Bookout, and I'm co-founder and executive director of the Chimaera Project. So thank you so much for being here. We're very excited. I have a short film in the festival circuit right this second that's doing pretty well. It's a short doc called Glorious Call. I co-produced and worked on the animation. We have a feature-length film in development right now, Acting Like Women, Performance Art in a Women's Building. One of my team members is here. Yay. So I have other projects in the works, but those are the 2 that I'm really proud of at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for being here. Hi, welcome. Thanks for coming. It's really amazing to look out, and there's all women, and America's dad is here. Yeah. And all women in America's dad. Yay! Your dad. Supporting women.
That's right.
So we're gonna kick things off with some lightning round questions. So we want you to keep your answers to 5 words or less. So we would like all of you to answer this. So first question is, what is one thing you rely on for every indie film production, or what's one thing that you would recommend to everyone for an indie film production?
Are we going down the line?
Yeah, let's go down the line.
Sure. A kick-ass production team, a line producer that tells you the truth.
An incredible poster company that makes me the best poster in the world.
A logo's pretty helpful too. Hold on, wait, can you hear me? What?
Doesn't like my voice. I'm just saying a logo, because I was gonna say line producer as well, but like actually having like a logo and like a brand, like a branding, something that is very helpful.
I guess mine's not really a thing, but try to have a good time.
A very, very, very thorough schedule of the day or days you're shooting.
Everything they said, and a business plan, some sort of a budget in place.
That's
a good one.
Oh, go ahead and keep the mic, Cheryl, and we'll come right back. So next question is your favorite quality about someone that you like to work with on a production.
Oh, that's easy. Sense of humor, passion about the project.
Honesty and open communication.
Yeah, I feel like good communication is really key, and yeah, I guess communication and people who are also fun.
For me, it's compassion and kindness. That goes a really long way with me.
I second that. Yes people. They have to be yes people.
For me, it's solutions oriented. Everything's gonna go wrong. So I love working with people who just are like, okay, how are we gonna fix it, instead of bitching about it.
Right. Yeah.
right, the yes people again. That's
Yeah.
great, yeah, I love that. So next question is your favorite quality about yourself?
I'm a
Harder
yes
question.
person.
Yeah.
I'm a yes person. So get in the car and let's drive.
Yeah.
Same here, I'm a yes person. I'm super optimistic, so I always go into everything excited and can't wait to do it.
I think for me it's when I put my mind to something, when I know that I'm gonna do this thing, then I just do it. I get it done. Like I don't even know how I'm gonna do it. I just somehow make it happen.
Yeah, I would go along those lines too. I'm very persistent. When I set a goal, I make it happen.
I'm a really good problem solver, and I sometimes don't realize until I'm in the midst of solving a problem.
I was going to say the same thing about not giving up. If I set a goal, I'm there. I'm driven.
Great, perfect. I'll keep the mic. One more question. What is one thing that you think needs to be fixed in our current film industry?
Fixed. Well, I don't know how to fix it, but I'm concerned. We have so many wonderful storytellers, so many projects in the works. I don't know, funding, how we're going to get funding. I think funding opportunities need to be fixed.
I'm really concerned and trying to make progress in opening doors for people who haven't already reached a very successful career.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, what I try to do is open the doors for other people and create opportunities for people who would normally have that. And hope that people will do the same for me.
Fix is such a tricky word for me, but I think in terms of what all of them are saying, especially funding, I think all of us are into being more inclusive and diverse, and I don't know why my voice is not being picked up by this microphone, but yeah, that's all.
Check the bottom.
Yeah, I think, is that all right? I think that fixing it is on ourselves. I really don't like to hear a bunch of people complain about a problem, but they're not doing anything to fix it. And when I make movies, I make female driven. I have more women on the call sheet than men, and I hire at least 51% in post-production. It is a requirement on my movie set because I'm going to be the change. I also think we need more female investors. That would change the playing field for all of us a lot.
So they're out there. Mine is a little bit different in that digital has had such a great impact on all of our abilities to greenlight ourselves. The challenge is that too many people are doing it all themselves. This is a team sport. We're only made better by collaboration. And as somebody who has to watch a lot of content through the year, that's great that you can write it and be in it and shoot it and edit it, but don't. Because you're not great at all of those things. And you can't see what I call the gap. If you wrote it, you know these people, you know these characters, you can't tell that your communication's not landing. And our ability to economically make everything in-house because we don't have the money to pay somebody else to do it is resulting in mediocre films. And then these people are devastated when they're not getting in a festival. You can continue to give us your money. We'll take your $80 at festivals, but that's the number one thing I'm seeing that really needs to change is now that we have these tools, we still need to work with each other.
That's great. That's great perspective. And I love that you brought up, creating your own content, because we actually have two people on our panel that did an amazing job at doing that, which is Alexandra and Heidi. You guys started off as actors and then you moved into another area. So I would love actually for you guys both to talk about that. It's one thing to be an actor, but it's another thing to be wearing many hats. So would you guys like to speak to that?
Sure. For me, I came out here with that, that specific goal in mind. I'm gonna be an actor. I'm gonna get an evening job. I'm gonna go to auditions, and then I found myself in some of the women on the panel know I speak out a lot about domestic violence, and I actually got stuck in a relationship that was incredibly abusive, and I lost myself, and I forgot all the reasons that I was here. And one of the ways that I was able to pull myself out of that was one day it just clicked with me. It was like, why are you here? And then I had been here long enough where I had made some friends who had cameras and knew how to shoot things and wanted to be directors. And I had a friend who had experience writing, and we just started writing something and we started shooting it, and that gave me a sense of self. And I eventually built up enough strength to separate myself from that destructive situation that I was in. So it was kind of
Twofold. I mean, it was also the fact that I'm an actor.
that I'm an actor who was tired of waiting for people to cast me and stuff too, you know. But if you have a story idea and you have people around you that can help you produce it, then why not, you know? And it could save your life. You never know, right? So.
Yeah, same thing. I moved out here 20 years ago to be an actor, and I spent 10 years waiting tables, pounding the pavement, working hard. And after 10 years, I realized that if I didn't change my life, I would be doing the same thing over and over for the next 10 years, expecting different results. So I actually moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico, because I just couldn't think outside the box in LA. I was sort of stuck in my little box. And when I moved out to Albuquerque, I was like really open to doing anything, like being a stand-in, being a PA. And I started meeting other incredible independent filmmakers that wanted to be a director and a DP and a gaffer. And I was like, why don't we all just start making our own stuff? And that was sort of the beginning of being like, oh, I can choose myself and put myself in the movie and then get myself to be on the cover of the poster that's in Walmart that I've been spending 10 years trying to get someone else to pick me to do. And yeah, so that was sort of the beginning. And it's ever since I started producing and writing, it's been so empowering. And when I moved back to Los Angeles, I realized all those 10 years of meeting people, those relationships became so valuable because I wasn't just asking them to do something for me, I had something to offer. And that changes everything about your life because it does put you in a power position, and it feels a lot better to be able to be in a position. Plus, I'm a really hard worker, so you, as an actor, you can't work hard enough for someone to choose you. And that can make a person go insane. And now that I have power and control over my career, I'm a whole different human being. A lot better.
That's a beautiful point, because I mean, what we're talking about is shifting from being a victim into taking control of your life and control of your career. And I think that's really important for women to hear, you know, that that's possible, and to see this group of women up here that has done that and that wears multiple hats. You know, I would love, actually, I keep thinking about you, Cheryl, as we're talking about this, because you came from a very different background, and you started pursuing filmmaking later in life. So could you speak to that?
Yeah, I laugh later in life, which could be like tomorrow afternoon, right? But yes, I did. I was, you know, went to school, got married early, all those things all the stories you hear all the time. However, filmmaking was my passion.
Heidi, I don't think you need to take my personally. I think you're probably in some kind of dead zone. I just spoke to them. So if you move over one way or another, it may work. Incidentally, I can hear you even when the mic shuts you off.
Okay, cool.
Dead zone.
Thank you.
Yeah, theatrical training.
Thanks, Ash.
Thanks,
Thank you
Dad.
for that.
Thanks, Mister.
At any rate, so I'm not going to bore you with my background, but I have always been an entrepreneur.
Please
And-
bore us.
No,
What is your
no.
background?
Please.
Got married early, had a couple kids. Husband left me, needed to make money, so there went school, there went some things that I was doing. You've heard this story a million times, particularly from women in my generation, I think, who got married out of high school. So wound up going back to school later as an adult, but filmmaking was always my goal, my passion. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. I went to Canoga Park High School. Everybody's parents was involved in the industry in some capacity, but I realized, thinking about this panel, it was the fathers, it was the grandfathers. You know, my best friend's grandfather was special effects. Her dad worked in props. Another friend's dad was a cameraman. It was all the dads. So I never really pictured myself being in the industry, but I knew I wanted to have something to do with it. My husband's father was a fairly successful art director. He did things like the Brady Bunch, which you might have heard of, and a few other paint and place, and some of the first TVs for movies. Movies for TVs. He's also helped design Universal City Tour. Never once did I imagine myself doing those things until I got a brain, which was when I was maybe 30 years old. I found out I had a brain.
Sense of self.
Right, you know, so I don't know why it took me so long. But then I was still not in a position where I could really pursue. But I've always done art-related things. I've been a gallery director. I make art. I have facilitated many public art projects with the likes of Judy Chicago and other artists that you may cross paths with. Everything's always been art related. Behind that though was always I wanted to tell my stories. I wanted to make a film. I came across, I write grants also. It's one of the things that I've always done is write grants. So I'm always looking for the compelling story or the quote to use in my grant. So I just discovered about a week ago a woman who was born in 1913, passed away in 1980. Her name was Muriel, and I've not heard her last name pronounced. I'm not too sure how you say it, but it's Rukeyser, Rucksayer, I believe. She was a feminist. And one of her quotes that I found that I loved was that the universe is made of stories, not atoms. And I realized that's how I've always felt. You know, this world is full of stories to tell. So when I come across those things, and she was born in 1913, was doing social justice work, writing, doing poetry, I think, okay, it's never really too late, because she didn't start doing those things until she was later in life also. So then I tell myself, it's okay. I was there, I got the first Apple computer when it came on the market, even, you know, I was the first person to get AOL, you know, because when that's all there was. I've always, first person that I knew in my neighborhood that bought Adobe Suite when it first came out a million years ago. So, you know, it's always been there, the dream has always been there. It's just been in the last, and also I put myself in horrible, uncomfortable positions all the time, always. You know, volunteer to be an extra in a film, thinking I'm gonna stand on the sidelines, and then I'm invited to be a featured extra. So then that gives me, and the only reason I would do that was so I could observe process. So, you know, I just have thrown myself out there and done some things that have made me highly uncomfortable. I also worked in human services for many years and worked with survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault, making digital stories for them to share their stories nationally. So it's always been there. Now I'm happy to say that I've got a short film festival, working on a feature film, and possibilities are endless.
Right, right. So I think, you know, what I love about Cheryl is that she embodies, you know, that you can do anything and that you can come from any background. And filmmaking, you know, it's not like, you know, filmmaking is this one thing that is just this. You can apply the principles that are from other positions, other backgrounds to this process. You know, what I would really love is to ask, you know, this question is for anybody, you know, what do you wish you knew about production, pre-production, post-production, or distribution, you know, any phase of filmmaking? What do you wish you knew about any phase when you first started out? What is the one thing you really wish you knew?
I think for me, it's I wouldn't change my knowledge of the film industry when I first started out. Every day I'm learning something new, and I feel like since I decided to be a filmmaker, that's going to be my entire life. I will forever learn something new, and the industry will forever be changing. So I mean, I knew it was going to be hard, and that's, I think, all there is to it. I decided to do it, and I knew it was going to be hard, and I learned along the way.
For me, for my first feature film, I really wish what I had known in the beginning of making the movie was how important your marketing materials are, your poster, your trailer, and the finished product. And I spent a lot of money submitting a horror thriller to film festivals, and I blew over $2,000 on that, and I wish that I had known that what I should have been spending that money on was the best poster I could have and the best trailer I could have, because that is how you're going to ultimately sell your product at the end of the day.
I think for me, I don't know that there's anything I wish I had known, because there's some things if I had known I probably wouldn't have tried, you know. Not to sound like scary or anything like that, but like for instance, like crowdfunding, I've done that, and it is a lot of work, but it's also very rewarding. And I have a tendency to talk myself out of things, so if I find a reason to do it, especially back then, I would have talked myself out of doing these amazing things and meeting, and then it led to meeting so many wonderful people, and it just continues. And there's still plenty of things that I don't know about that I want to learn more about, and I'm excited to learn about. So
that's great. You know, there's this perception, you know, about filmmaking, indie filmmaking. You know, typically it's lower budgets, and there's different definitions of what people call indie filmmaking. But I do want to address that piece of it. you know, the different budgets and the experiences with different budgets. We have a couple people. Kim, you can speak to this, and Ashley, you'd be a great person to speak to this. You know, what is your experience working on different budgets? What's that like, and what could you offer from that experience?
Well, I've done a few feature films, and then they've fallen in the ultra low, or you know, as far as SAG is concerned, ultra low budget range, everything from like 200,000 to 600,000. And then I've done the no budget web series, no budget short films, small, slightly larger budget short films, and I've, you know, and it's hard. It's all the same monster. It's the same monster as when I worked on network television. It's just you have more money to solve those problems. But you're still working just as hard, trying to meet just as many people and make it just as good of a product. That's the key, is you're still trying to make your product look like it's that your short film is $100,000, even if it's $2,000. And you have to be really creative and have people that you trust, and that it's very, very, very open communication.
I think my mother used to say, I don't need to buy you a bigger purse, you're just gonna put more stuff in it. And I feel that way about the budget line. On a bigger show, we just have more problems and more opportunity for things to go wrong. So I don't know that doing a $20 million picture is, you know, it has its own approach. I think what's exciting and why I love indie filmmaking is I love the actual philosophical approach to how to budget for an ultra low and how to make sure that your script deserves that money spent on it. Every shot, every beat. Do I need this to tell my story? Do you need to really spend an hour shooting somebody getting out of a car and getting the groceries and walking to the door? And us not being as economical. I love ultra low filmmaking because it makes us better storytellers and really navigating exposition and where we can show it and not tell it. So I love the challenge of it. I feel there's a real freedom also in when you're working big stuff. There's a lot of people who like to offer their creative input. And I feel like in independent film, I get to make what I have to say from my point of view, and it's more sous vide, it's more pure, because everything else is truly a collaboration from casting. You know, the bigger you get, the bigger shows that you get, the more it's a lot of people in the kitchen. And so your vision as the writer or the director isn't necessarily, it doesn't always come out. You have to compromise on so many things to accommodate the distributor and what they need to sell it. That might not have been my vision for that actor. And I remember directing a show, and I didn't really have a lot of input on the actors. And I was complaining to my mom about it, and my mom said, well, what's your job on it? Are you producing it? It's like, no, I'm directing it. She's like, then direct, that's your job, right? Your job is to see what this actor can bring and how to adapt this character and make it work. And that was such a light bulb moment for me. I love my mom, she's such a wise woman. Because she just it was so simplistic, but I really had I've really gotten into my own hubris that I'm complaining about that. So that was a real wake-up call for me. It really helped me a lot.
You made me think of one thing also. This is literally a very good piece of advice I'm going to give you. And this is for ultra low or small projects, no money projects, and you can still use it if you have a lot of money. But you've got to learn the rules inside and out so that you can break them.
That's where you know which ones you can break. Yep.
That is something I pride myself on. I really it should be like my Twitter handle, but you really have to learn the rules inside and out so that you can break them.
It's true. I had a show, and they didn't want to pull a permit. They were just so punk rock about it, and I appreciate that. I'll steal a shot.
Where were you shooting?
But it was a robbery at a liquor store with guns, and these kids could not understand why they needed to pull a permit for that. And I almost walked off the show. Like, I really should not have this conversation with you right now. I mean, like, we're really having this conversation. You have to pull a permit. Are you kidding me? So I
Depending where
completely.
you're shooting too.
Yeah, but the corner liquor store with 2 guns is
like in
not
a city.
what you're gonna.
Did you try
you
to
know.
I did
use,
do
like,
that, but
like
I
water
was in
pistols,
the
like
middle of
green
nowhere.
water pistols and stuff?
You know, you could get shot in this town, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So, I love Marvin Peoples and I love his story about how he got the fire trucks to show up. But that was 1970 what?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're shooting
Yeah.
downtown LA, give me a break.
Oh, yeah. Downtown LA, yeah, that's crazy.
One of the things that I love about filmmaking is that behind the scenes stuff that we don't get to know about, and also the creativity that has to come in to solving those problems. So I mean, I would love to hear, from anyone, what is an obstacle, what's an issue that came up for you at any point in production that you had to confront? How did you solve that, and what did you learn from it?
I learned early on to start doing trades. Instead of asking for free, find out what those people want and say, can I trade this? I had a National Historical Society land, 500 acres in Alamogordo, New Mexico, and I really wanted to shoot my movie there, and I had zero money for a budget. It's for location. So I went to the man who runs it, and I said, I have drones. Is there anything that I could do with the drone that you would like? And he was like, well, actually, if you would like shoot my entire aerial photography, I would love to use it for our museum. And I will give you the property for free to shoot your movie if I can have the footage for my museum. So finding ways, now I do trades with everybody. Even my last film, which is my 5th feature film, I go in and say, I wanted a bridal shop. I go, what can I do if you'll lend me your bridal shop and all the dresses? What can I offer you back? Social media wise, I had a YouTube star. I said, I'll put her in the dress and I'll take a picture and we'll put it on social media. Anything, marketing to people is worth more money than you renting out their spaces. So finding trades was the best advice I could give.
Or things that solve problems. Anything else?
I know somebody else has a story.
What was it, a hardship?
Yeah.
And I'll see what we learned.
On a period piece, we were shooting in like 113 degrees.
Something like that.
It gets up there in my hometown Barstow. And the camera kept having a meltdown, like it would shut down and we'd have to wait, and we got stressed. And I think the biggest thing I learned from that one was I should have had another day. Even though I probably couldn't afford it, but I could have made it happen in some way. And then also just kind of like releasing the stress. Like, it is what it is, the camera's breaking, let's let it cool off, he's having a hard time, and just letting it go and then starting over again, or moving on with the day. And then yes, I've done that too, where I would ask for, what is it, how is it that I can help you? That question is a very nice one to hear on the other end, and you'd be surprised on the different things you can swing.
Because you have a camera. People need a camera.
Yeah, marketing material is valuable, for sure. And then just not being afraid to ask, having no shame. And I think that getting that yes when you have so many no's is very rewarding. Yeah.
Okay, you were talking about pulling permits earlier, and recently we were shooting something, and I usually pride myself on writing scenes like a producer where it's like easy to shoot it, but for some reason when I wrote the script, I decided to write a scene, like the climax scene, on the side of a road where my car breaks down. And it's one of the harder locations to find, I didn't even think about it at the time, because now I'm also in the space where it's like, well, if this is what I'm thinking, I can write it and then I can change it later. But so we looked at a few properties that were willing to work with us, but in the end, the budget was just, we didn't have enough money to pay for the permit and the property and the actors and the food and all this stuff. So we ended up having to, I asked around a little bit, and we found a location where like hardly anybody was driving by, and we grabbed that scene and we wrapped.
So, you know, I mean, and it's scary. It's really scary. We actually had someone, like a name actor, working with us at the time too, and I was just like, I didn't want to put him in a position where he felt like uncomfortable, so we double checked with everyone, and we're, you know, it was really, yeah, sometimes you just have to take a deep breath and make it happen. So that's what we did.
That's awesome. So are there any filmmakers in the audience? Raise your hand if you're a filmmaker. Yeah! Awesome. Is there anybody that wants to be a filmmaker in the audience? Nobody wants to be a filmmaker. There's one. That's wonderful. And you know, there's a certain you know, in the industry lately, we've been talking a lot about female filmmakers. There's the hashtag Female Filmmaker Friday. Do any of you want to speak to that? What it's like to be a woman in the industry, being a female filmmaker, and anything that you've had to confront or deal with because of being a woman?
I feel very grateful right now being in the industry right now, because I feel like everyone is very supportive and has been very nice to me and giving me lots of advice, and personally that's the way that I feel. I am actually kind of glad that I'm starting off, I mean, I'm on year 3 doing this, but I'm glad that I'm starting off now rather than 20 years ago, because I do feel supported. Granted, you know, we have a long way to go, but I'm very optimistic about it.
I'm optimistic as well, because I shared with you my background, and I do see the changes, and I'm happy that I'm been like in year 2, going on to year 3 of putting my heart where it belongs. However, I do look forward to the day when we don't have to say woman filmmaker or woman whatever. When I hope I live long enough to see that. I think, you know, it would be really, really nice to not have the labels anymore, but I think it's necessary now. We're not quite there yet, and it's made a big difference to have this. I've seen it, but I do hope, like my 16-year-old granddaughter who wants to be a director doesn't have to think about it. I hope she's just a director. Thanks.
I think for me, it's not so much being a female filmmaker, because I started off like 10 years in my first feature, and I had a group of incredible men who championed me, and I didn't even think about it until I came back and saw like, oh, that people talk to my male partner, but they forget that I'm in the room. And I was like, wait a minute. But I think my biggest obstacle was when I got asked to do a faith-based film, and I said, okay, well, my passion is female-driven, so I'm gonna make a female-driven faith-based film. And my executive producers actually said, no, you can't do that, because there's no numbers in the marketplace, this was like 5 years ago, for women to carry a faith-based film. And if you look at them, we're all very male-driven. And I was like, well, if I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna make it about a woman, and I'll put football in there to make you happy, and I'll do a woman. And I stood my ground, and because I had earned my seat at that table, and the reason we were making this movie was because how successful my film was before, that nobody could trump me and say no. And I said, this is what we're doing. And that movie ended up selling, and it went on to become the top 5 consistent selling movie for the distribution company. And I have chills, because I am like, we have to fight and believe in what we're doing and know that there is a humongous audience out there desperate for this. And women talk, and women are the #1 buyers. So it seemed like a no-brainer to me, but first I had to convince other people, but I stood my ground and didn't sell out and say, oh, okay, I'll make a male movie for you, another one. And little by little, we each get to change the world.
For me, when I started, my first job was as a PA in production at Touchstone Television, which was a Disney company at the time. And they're just, people just, even as I grew into coordinating and then line producing, people assumed I was the assistant, you know? And so, no, I'm the one that did this budget. It's gonna save your job. I'm happy to get you some coffee, but in the meantime, you need to lose like $30,000 out of this budget or you're not shooting. But let me get you like sugar with that. Do you know what I mean? And so I think that my dad was the one who said, as a director, you always are going to be looking for work. So it's important that you own stuff, because we come from a culture where we weren't allowed to, your grandparents weren't allowed to own stuff. And so it was really important to my dad that I owned the material. And so he staked me to option material, and then helped me launch Hollywood Shorts. And going independent allowed us to own the scripts, write our own stuff, and make it. And so being able to have a knowledge base puts me in a different conversation where I'm not asking someone for a job. I get to, at a young age, learn how to have a partnership conversation, or teaming up with a producer or an investor. We're teaming up, we're going into business together. And so my dad was a venture capitalist, and so I was taught that language. And so being able to have that power, the men at that time, I didn't know any female investors, I still don't know very many. Being able to speak that language and be able to talk to hedge fund managers in their language became a way to also offset inappropriate approaches, where you go to AFM or you go to Cannes trying to make deals, and they literally are saying, if you have sex with me, I'll finance your movie. They don't really hide it, and they didn't back then. And so being able to turn those conversations into financial conversations without being offending the guy was what really helped me navigate that as a woman, where I can still walk out of it and he still wants to do business with me, and and so that helped me. Taking responsibility for my business knowledge was the best thing I did for my artist. As an artist, taking responsibility for the business of my work. Yeah, as a woman.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Starting out, that was so amazing that you got that support and you got that advice. Even for anybody, a lot of you are already filmmakers. What would you offer somebody that's just starting out? From your experience and what you've been through and wearing multiple hats and networking and dealing with all of this, what is something that you all would offer anybody that wanted to start out in the industry and start and be a filmmaker?
I would say just go after it and find your team, your community. I call it my community. Find your people that you can make a stupid decision with, and they're still gonna support you. Find the people that you can make a bad movie and you guys still wanna make another one. Because that is where I find my sanity is there. If I was doing this all alone without any support, I wouldn't be able to survive in this industry. But I have a producing partner, and I have a very supportive husband and family who keep encouraging me, and they keep saying, it's okay, there's more, get back up. Because I still have my days where I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing this? But then you have your awesome days where you get asked to be on a panel with these amazing ladies. And just be ready to just go at it, attack it, and learn.
I would say look at your career in a long haul. Don't just look at it like, okay, this project this year. Look at your career, what you want for the next 20 years. It goes by fast. And take care of the people who work on your films. Everybody who worked on my first feature for free, I gave them points in the back end on the next movie that they work on. And I'm still working with some of the same people for the past 10 years, including my sales agent is still the same as sales agent, because we take care of our people and we fight for them on the next project and the next project, because this will hopefully be your team for the next 20 years, and that is how you will become successful, is your tribe, but how you treat people. And it's a small town, and everybody knows who's got a good reputation and who doesn't, and you can ruin your reputation really fast. Be kind to people and treat them well. That's my best advice.
I was going to say something similar, so ditto, about being kind to the team. You articulated it beautifully, so thank you.
I think for me, it's knowing knowing your point of view as an artist is going to be very important as you navigate what you're making next, and why. And growing and learning and watching a lot of cinema, so you can figure out what you like, what resonates with you, what turns you on, what do you have to say, and being specific about it and being unrelenting. But you have to have a voice, you have to have a point of view. I don't need another Hooker with a Heart of Gold story. I don't need to see another film about a soldier with PTSD unless like he's in space or something. I mean, right?
Cool.
What do you have to say, and what is real to you? I like Kelly Edwards, who's the VP of talent at HBO, who created Access. Challenge, we just premiered our drama pilot set in a high school shooting in Texas at South by last week. And the story came from 2 NYU graduates. They had just graduated. They were 19, 20 or 21. And they had, the HBO Writers Fellowship is an 8-month program. And they had gone through 2 stories and still it wasn't like resonating. And so they had like a month left, and she said, well, let's write something else so that at least you can have meetings with agents and we can send you around town with a good writing sample. And then Parkland happened, and Stephanie happened to be from the town next to Parkland, and her brother got sheltered in place. And she said, Kelly asked her, what is keeping you up at night? And that singular question allowed her to put herself onto the page and put herself and honesty into these characters. And I know this is a really powerful pilot that we've made because it's real and it's honest, and it came from a really honest place with her. So I like to challenge myself that way, like, what's keeping me up at night? If you're just writing about stuff to write about stuff, it's not gonna resonate. You've gotta put yourself in your heart, and it's not about writing what you know, which I think is limiting, but you have to have some connection or care about these people in your shows. And you have to know them really, really well, these people. You have to know what happened to them when they were 7 so that you can have honest choices that they're making that's not cliche and predictable. Yeah.
That's great. Sylvia, I saw you nodding your head and really agreeing with that. Do you want to add something?
Yeah, no, I mean, everybody had really great advice. I totally agree with finding your tribe. My tribe is currently growing, and I know who I want to keep around and who I don't. And so, yeah, I would definitely, I think that's great, really great advice. And as an artist, like, you definitely have to find a way to put your heart into it, otherwise it's not going to get done, or it's not going to be great. And I've had to rewire my brain to do that, because it's not, I don't think it comes easy to bring out a lot of that. And so I constantly work on that. And I will say also, I guess another type of advice would be just to always remember that your voice matters, and that you are going to be underestimated, but you're capable, and you're capable of learning. And yeah.
That's great. I love how you said rewire your brain, because I think especially as women, you know, when we're groomed, when we, you know, we're supposed to support everybody else, you know, we're not supposed to be, you know, the go-getters or the one that's so passionate. And that's one of the things I love about filmmaking and indie filmmaking, because it takes that passion, and you have to learn that passion, or else you won't thrive. And this kind of brings me actually to one other thing I wanted to make sure that we touched on, and that is being a mother and pursuing this as a career. So you actually have the mic already. So
yeah, I have 2 boys. One is 3 and one is 5, so they're still really young. I've had the pleasure to be at home with them when they were really, really young. And now as they're growing, I'm building my career every day, day by day. And it's a struggle to balance everything, but I think you become really resourceful with your time really quickly. So that's one thing that has helped me in my career. My kids have taught me, you only have this time. Use that time to work on what you're passionate about, and that's what I do. One thing I also think about is, what kind of person do I want to be for them? What am I trying to teach them? And like the other day, I'm making this sizzle reel for an Oscar winner, and he has really cool stuff at his company, and so I'm editing this reel, and my son comes in and he's like, oh, I got an owie, I need a hug. And so I pick him up, I'm like, oh, let me show you something cool that mommy made. And I showed him this really, badass video with cool, Coco was in there and like all this other stuff. Anyway, he was just like, whoa, who made that? Who made that? And I'm like, oh, I did. I made the video, really, but but I was just thinking, how cool for him, to see, like, because I didn't have artist parents, and so I kind of think about, what kind of seeds am I planting, and yeah, so that's kind of been my experience so far, and I know as I get busier, it'll be tough to balance everything, but you just, like a puzzle piece, you just make it work.
I have this saying where I say, just because you birth a child doesn't mean you've like birthed out your work ethic. So,
That's not the attitude.
yeah, a lot of stuff comes out, but not that. Sorry, that's gross.
It's all women.
That's all women.
But yeah, I think I don't remember exactly what the question is. I'm just going to talk about my daughter.
Yes, go ahead.
But I think that I made a choice to have my daughter. She's 3 as well. It's really, really hard. And but she brought in a new inspiration to myself. Like I didn't want to come home and have her see me unhappy. And that's where I was with my previous career. Every day I was unhappy. I was seeing a therapist. I was trying to take yoga and everything, meditate and everything, and I was just not finding happiness. So I found a way, made a change, and now I make it work. And yeah, your time is very limited. Like I pick her up from preschool, and that's the end of my day until like 10 p.m. at night, where I can pick up my phone again. But yeah, like I think it's worth it, and I think you can still be a mother and have a job have a career. In this industry. You just have to work really, really hard. And find your tribe, find your community, find your support team. You can do it. If you were doing it before, you can do it again. One of the things that I tend to do whenever I'm posting pretty much anything film related on my social media is I have a hashtag Mama Makes Movies, and I tag it to every picture, and it actually gets people to ask me questions about it. And I don't hide her. I think she's my inspiration, and so I'm really proud of the fact that I am a mom and I am making headway in this really tough industry. So I have this hashtag Mama Makes Movies, and it's me, and it's for my partner, my producing partner. She's also a mom. But one of the things that we're doing with it is one of the things that's important to me is mentorship and panels. And so with our company, Minerva Pictures, we're going to start hosting panels or workshops that are called the Mama Makes series, and we want to have women who are in the industry who are mothers and who are doing different things. Like we'll have editors, or we'll have stunt people, or we'll have directors or writers who come in and talk to women, because I know that having a child can be a serious career killer for many women in this industry, and I think that we need to change that as well. Because again, just because you've birthed a child or cut a child out of your stomach or adopted a child or you have someone you're taking care of doesn't mean your work ethic goes away. You just have to work harder to keep your career going.
I have something to add.
It also puts things into perspective really fast. Personally, parenting is the hardest thing in the world. It's harder than birthing the baby.
That's the easy part.
Yeah, that's the easy. Well, it was hard, but it was also easier than parenting and trying to raise a kind human being. So it goes parenting, birth, and then all the other stuff, like taking meetings, navigating this industry. Everything comes like third.
That's great.
Really quickly.
Sure. You're right. It's hard, and it never really gets easier. And you just get older, and your kids get older, and then you care more, and there's more problems, and there's more stuff. But it's a puzzle, and you make it work, and you follow your passion, and you do it anyway. And you do plant seeds. I'm a living example. I have 2 adult children. I've spent my whole life in nonprofits. My daughter is spending her whole life in nonprofits. Mine was human services and the arts versus animal welfare. I worked as a museum arts person. That's what my son does. He works in museums, he's an art person. So yes, you totally influence. And it seems like it either goes, they can't stand what you do and they go the complete opposite direction, want nothing to do with it, or somewhere along the line you're close enough to them that there's a connect. So it's actually pretty wonderful.
That's wonderful. Thank you guys for sharing your experiences being mothers. We have a few minutes left, and there's something that's been mentioned a few times from more than one of you about finding your support team, finding your people, and I just love to end with that question. How do you find your people? How do you find your support team?
Yeah. I started mine. It's called Hollywood Shorts. I started it. A friend of mine named Chris Gore had just put up this little website called Film Threat. It was like the first couple of months. I had been screening films, I think at AFI maybe. And there was nowhere in LA that you could show short films and that had great sound. And I had started as a musician here, and I booked a couple of clubs in LA, and we all had the best sound systems in town. And so I went to the owner and said on Sundays, you know, the 8 o'clock band's always some guy with a guitar and his mom, his girlfriend, you know what I mean? It's like, brings like the same 5 guys from his house. So we're in here setting up, anyway, let me show some movies and they'll keep the crowd for the 8 o'clock band. And he said yes. And we are now in our 20th season at Hollywood Short. So I started my tribe and I just started inviting people I wanted to make movies with and that I wanted to do business with. And we just make sure we're in a room, that there are no stadium seating, because we're conditioned to get your popcorn and sit down and save your seat. And so what we found to help us find our tribe was if you put people in a bar and give them a shot of tequila, they'll talk to each other. And so we would have PAs sitting next to like an exec at Disney, and they would be talking to each other. And so we built our community with the concept of nurturing creative relationships is kind of our bottom line. And you can kind of come to Film Church, and I want somebody, I think we all go to a lot of panels, we pay a lot of money to go to different women events in town, where you spend hundreds of dollars and I'm sat at a table and literally nobody spoke to me. You know, and I spent hundreds of dollars to go to this women's event and nobody would speak to me. And so I wanted to make sure that Hollywood Shorts was a place that nobody ever felt like that when they walked in the door. And anybody who can't resonate with the group, they don't come back. And so it's a really self-regulating group, and people get encouraged the next day. What can you actually do? Here's a call. Like, if I'm introducing you to people at Hollywood Shorts, you can call them the next day. I literally pay a lot of money to go to a panel where he's like, yeah, you can send me a script, I'm probably not gonna read it, I'm not gonna return your phone call, I'm just here, you know what I mean? And that's reality. And so for us, we wanted to make sure that we were meeting people. Like, I literally can say, I have called America and said, what are you doing tomorrow? And she said, whatever you need me to. And Hollywood Shorts was how I meet my people. So I just started my own stuff because I couldn't find the people that was doing what I wanted, how I wanted to roll. So we just started our own group. And Chimaera Project's the same thing. Yeah.
I think for me, finding my team was, first off, you want to find people that do different things than you, because you don't want to be in competition for the same job. So when I moved out to New Mexico, I booked an acting job, and I actually went around and started meeting all the crew. And I was like, what do you do? What do you really want to do? And from there, I found out the people that wanted to be the cinematographer, but they weren't getting the opportunity. In New Mexico, a lot of these people that I was meeting were working on the Avengers and Thor and huge movies and electricians and Best Boy grips, but they weren't getting the opportunity to be a cinematographer or director. So when we made our first feature, where there was only 5 of us making this movie, I at least had team members that knew exactly what they were doing and how to make the movie look like it was $1 million. So that's how I found my tribe. It literally started with 5 people. And then along the way, we started collecting people. And every time we make a movie, we're like, oh, we're keeping you. I might let go of you. Sorry. And then I think the other thing is when you build a reputation that you finish what you start, I have been able to bring on some incredible people on my films because they're like, we want to work with them because they always finish it and they always get distribution. So that goes a long way. Finish what you start, and then you will attract the people that are extremely talented and want to be a part of your team.
For me, my tribe started with just 2 people, myself and Megan Green, who was my co-creator of my show. We built, just between the 2 of us, our company, Dweeb Darlings, and now she's kind of like my Wozniak. she's more of an improv, very talented improv actress, and she prefers to do stage stuff. But as we started making our episodes, we would have friends who knew friends who knew friends, and then we would also collect people as well. And then it is like building a relationship, because any relationship, sometimes things work and sometimes things don't. You know who you click with, and you know who does what you need, and you know the ones that maybe they're just not a good fit for your team. Don't be afraid of that. Don't feel bad, you know. I'm sure all of you are capable of being diplomatic. So, and my team is still continuing to grow. We work equally with men and women. I'm trying to get to know more female filmmakers. That is actually, this past project that I had was proving a little difficult for me, because I just think that we don't know as many of them. And for me, we had a micro budget, so the ones that I did know, we couldn't necessarily afford. And I don't think that all women are like so expensive. I think that it's just, we don't have the same rosters of women that we do of men, because it just hasn't been common. So that's how mine started, was just one other person, and we went from there. So join us if you want.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to start off doing this with my best friend, Luwami Yasu's, who we're a good barometer for each other. We're like, we like that person, or we don't like that person, and this is why. And so and then from there we pick up people from where we go. I will say also, just spreading out a wide net. I'm a part of like so many different women's organizations, like Women in Film, the Los Angeles Women's Film Collective, Alliance of Women's Directors, Women in Media, and you know, I've gotten very valuable things from all of these groups, and there's more. There's support out there, there's people that you can hire of all different ranges, and mentors who want to have a mentee. Yeah, I've been very fortunate I just cast my net and then just like grab all these people and then figure out what works for me and what doesn't. Because I feel like we're all different, we're not the same person. There's a tribe out there for you.
So I'm sorry, we're gonna have to wrap it up because we've gotten to the end of our time. But before we end, I just want to make sure that you guys, so everybody got a handout, right? Everybody got a handout? Good. So on this last page here, we have some action items for you. So if you want to get started filmmaking, everything that all of our panelists have offered is going to come in handy for you if you would like to take these action items and create a film for yourself, maybe your first film. And if you're watching on the live stream, or you guys want to get a PDF copy of this, we have a sign-up list where you can get a PDF copy of this entire handout. And we also, all of our panelists have combined and created a resource list for you. Everything, like, they already offered some things. There's even more that they are offering you so that you can get started. And so we saved some paper, and we didn't print that one out. So again, we're gonna have sign-up sheets that are just about to get passed around. Put your name, put your email on there, and we will send you that resource list. So thank you so much.
And for the people at home?
Yes, and for the people at home as well. Email info, is it info?
It's info@chimaera.org.
Chimaera
CHIMA
is spelled like that.
.org.
Yeah.
So info@chimaera.org. And also for those of you that are here and sign up today, we have stickers for you.
Yes, we have stickers.
So we have an award. So
if you didn't get stickers, that sticker, get a sticker. Thank you for coming. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello.